Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. Treasury Watch wraps up. Wall Street's candidate for the Trump cabinet, Scott Bessent, named secretary nominee.
This is where he was leaning, I think, from the beginning.
From the beginning.
You had these huge campaigns and a lot of people, including Elon Musk and others, trying to persuade him to do other things very publicly. He came back to what he felt comfortable with.
And the three big sports wins this weekend with the man who owns each team, a trifecta of winning, Mark Wilf, on the Orlando Pride's first championship win.
Having players like Marta, the greatest women's sports soccer athlete ever, but just women's sports in general, I think people are rallying around it and want to watch it, and it's just a great product.
The Pride's brother MLS team won too, and the Vikings nail-biter that maybe didn't have to be so exciting.
11 points in 30 seconds. It's crazy.
Plus, the rest of today's stories that got us squawking. Glicket at the box office, a tennis team of rivals, and thoughtful holiday gift ideas.
Are you a gift certificate guy?
No! There's this new vacuum cleaner I got my eye on.
It's Monday, November 25th. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
President-elect Trump picking hedge fund executive Scott Bessent to be his Treasury secretary. This happened over the weekend. Bessent was on Squawk Box the morning after the election.
You can't say a tax cut's inflationary and a tariff is also inflationary, right? So I don't think they're necessarily inflationary. We're going to see deregulation, which is disinflationary. We are going to see President Trump has said he wants to get energy prices down, disinflationary. And then tariffs are a one-time price adjustment.
Guys, lots of stories over the weekend about what seemed like a knife fight playing out down in Mar-a-Lago for this specific role. Mark Rowan, as we talked about last week, flying in from China to meet with the president at one point. Kevin Warsh, obviously, in the hot seat as well as a possibility. And a lot of back and forth. Howard Lutnick, who ultimately became the Commerce Secretary, but clearly was trying to drive a wedge between himself and Scott Bessent. But it appears that ultimately President Trump chose Bessent in part because he felt the loyalty from Bessent from the beginning, and that they could work best together. It's going to be very interesting now to see how we see Bessent and how he works with him, and how far he's takes some of these things. I think one of the things that was so interesting when you talked about on our program was the issue of tariffs, but effectively how you might actually have to implement them on effectively a slow basis so that you don't impact the economy, or some of the other kinds of steps that the president has talked about. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
He hadn't been on.
What do you guys think?
We hadn't seen a lot of him, and then it was about a month ago, I think, when we had him on, and he was on set. Then we had him on again, obviously. But the first time he was on, he was so outspoken and so plain-spoken about supporting Trump. And I think, if you recall, I asked him, "Are you not on social media? How come you're so brave to be able to do this as a business person?" And then when we'd have a series of Trump bashers on, I was like, God, who can we get to take the other side? Because, Cuban and Scaramucci and just whatever. And it was like, what about that guy Bessent? Bring him back, please. So when they first decided that it was probably going to be him, and it was weird because remember, we were talking about who it was. We knew he was going to be on 10 minutes later. And all of a sudden, he was coming out as possible Treasury Secretary. And I wanted him right from the start. I just thought he was. I thought he had the right ideas about how to merge some of the stuff that's not classic conservatism with the environment that we're in right now. Where globally, free trade has hurt the middle. It has bored out a lot of what we used to make in this country. So I think there's and then we went through this unbelievable. What would you call it? I mean, we went from this guy to this guy to this guy to this guy, and they're flying in, they're doing that.
President Trump keeps his own counsel.
All the way back.
This is where he was leaning, I think, from the beginning.
From the beginning.
You had these huge campaigns, and a lot of people, including Elon Musk and others, trying to persuade him to do other things very publicly. He came back to what he felt comfortable with,
Right.
maybe somebody who had been with him for a while. You heard in that clip we played Bessent talking about things like things that wouldn't be counterinflationary. He's got this 3-3-3 proposal. Part of that is trying to get 3 million more barrels of oil a day that comes through on some of these issues. You heard him talking about those things and the idea of trying to merge together, as you mentioned, Joe, these trade, the tariffs that come through. It sounds like he is going to be somebody who is looking at this as a negotiation.
I mean, we went through Larry Kudlow briefly, and Lutnick. I love Howard, but
there were other names too.
I know.
Maybe remain nameless.
I was ecstatic, and returning to that, I was like,
Kevin Warsh. I mean, maybe we see Warsh come back up in 2026.
Warsh doesn't. I don't want it to. I like Kevin. I don't want it to end badly with Trump. And
I think Kevin's name will come up for Treasury
for Treasury
for the Fed chair.
For Fed,
right?
Yeah, in 2026.
Right. I just.
Which,
he's
by the way,
very
is the job that he
independent.
wanted anyway.
Kevin's very independent man. I'd hate to see him have to bend. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a perfect fit or not. But we'll see. I know that a couple of years ago when Jay Powell was first appointed, I think he wished, obviously, that it had been him. This guy's not going to be a SEC commissioner. Dan Gallagher, who previously served as an SEC commissioner, has removed himself from consideration to lead the SEC in this Trump administration. Gallagher is currently a top lawyer at Robinhood Markets. He said it's an honor to have his name in the mix, but he's committed to Robinhood. So it opens it up for Cuban guys.
Did you see Dr. Marty McCary at FDA? He's someone we've had on the show before, too.
He's out there in terms of just his opinions.
Yes and no.
It turned out some of the stuff he was saying that people were like, whoa, he's...
we had him on the show to begin with.
He said a lot of stuff.
Operated on my college roommate.
But he said a lot of stuff that was not allowed on Twitter, in the old Twitter. And now... He's
come about it from a reasonable position.
Right.
I spent some time talking to him.
There was a time when it wasn't considered reasonable, Marty McCary, but...
I don't know. I don't know. He's always had a reason.
It's quite this is as early as anyone's picked all 15 or whatever.
Well, I think he wants to hit the ground. The President-elect Trump wants to hit the ground running. Ran into problems in his last administration coming through, trying to get things up and running. He is ready to go. He's got a big agenda and things that he wants to get done. We should mention it was a big weekend at the box office. Universal's Wicked brought in $114 million in North American ticket sales. That is the highest ever debut for a Broadway adaptation. In the meantime, Gladiator II brought in about $55.5 million. That's below the expectations of $60 to $80 million. Both of those films are expected to continue to drive ticket sales at theaters throughout Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah, two movies I want to see and I haven't seen yet. The other one that I do want to see, too, is Disney's Moana 2. That comes out on Wednesday. It's expected to haul in $100 million over the 5-day Thanksgiving period. And that's probably the first one we'll get to see.
Yeah, we used to hear about Universal, and they'd have big, and it'd be like, yay! And now, I don't know. Whatever. Who cares?
We're still there for the next year.
I know. I'm kidding.
Totally
kidding. Totally kidding. Sometimes I speak for all of us, just in things you will never say, just to sort of.
That's why we love you.
That's why.
Go ahead.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I like you. Hey.
But there's always a smidgen of truth in the joke, Joe.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Because, there will come a day where we have absolutely nothing to do with NBC Universal. That day is coming. New York City hotel rates rose to an average of $417 a night in September.
Seems cheap.
Yeah. Bring the bed bug repellent. You can't get a room for $4.
Well, you're thinking Manhattan versus maybe all of.
Maybe, but that's the average. So for every 6 or 7, who's staying in the $200 rooms? That's a half-hour stay, typically. That is apparently the highest monthly rate ever recorded in the city by analytics company CoStar since it began tracking in 1987. The only place with more expensive hotels in September was Maui. New York City tourism officials estimate that nearly 65 million people will visit the city this year, and that's just shy of the more than 66 million people that visited in 2019 pre-pandemic. I'm feeling
itchy.
No, I'm feeling that that I got to separate my elitist views from what the average person. When we think of where we'd stay in New York.
But you're thinking of right around
I'm
here.
thinking
you
of
can't get a room anywhere.
Sorkin, you ever stay can you imagine staying in a $400 hotel here? That's one with,
Yeah.
I mean, you get to make waffles for yourself at one of those crappy breakfasts.
No.
That'd be nice if you could
There's like a Hilton Garden, just 2 blocks from us on 40th.
That's not 400.
There's that Hilton Garden. There's a Days Inn. I mean, that's what we're talking about. And that you can get under $400 a pop.
All right, let me know.
On a good day, you can get under 400. Sometimes those places
I was going to say, a
cost
lot of times you
400.
can't.
When I asked you about Olive Garden, you had to go back 30 years when the waitress slipped you her phone number. The last time and you have not been at a Days Inn in longer than that. So don't, I may have been bored at night. It wasn't last night, Sorkin. Maybe on the road.
I have
Maybe
been at a Days
on the
Inn.
road. I have too. I've been in a Holiday Inn Express on the road when you're going, but around here you've usually got like a butler where you stay, don't you? One of those.
I think the bigger question is
I
how do we
happen
know
to I happen to live in New York,
here.
and
Right. The only time I know it is when they put me up when they have us out until 1 or 2 in the morning.
$400 is a lot of money.
Place across the street.
$400 is a lot of money.
It is.
For
it is.
a hotel room.
But staying in Manhattan is a huge expense.
It is. And D.C., all these places are much more. You're better
off on the road.
And then the 418, by the time you're done, it's 618. With
the taxes,
everything, fees,
services.
And all this.
Well, that's the question. Is that an all-in number? The 418?
Right. That's a good question.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Included. Yeah.
I love this story, guys. A tennis dream team recently retired tennis great Andy Murray is now going to be coaching Novak Djokovic. This as he prepares for the Australian Open in January. Both men are 37 years old. They were born a week apart in May of '87. They met 36 times as professionals. Djokovic, of course, won 25 of those matches. Murray beat him, I think, at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open in 2013. But there's not a lot of sports where your biggest competitor, one of your biggest competitors, you go and say, you know what, you're so good and so great and I love you so much, I want you to be my coach. Think about that.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And reading what Murray wrote about him, too, just how he knew he was better, that he brought this great thing out of him, I think, the first time meeting him and things. It's amazing to see these two do it. I didn't realize they were only a week apart.
Right. When Murray won Wimbledon, where was that year? Where was Djokovic that year? Maybe he got beat by someone else in one of the earlier rounds or something. Or I'm just wondering. He did get past him there because Murray won. I don't know how many did he win just one Grand Slam?
No, didn't he? Okay, if you go back, I think in the Open 2013, I thought that he actually beat him did he not beat him in the finals?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question.
That's what I'm just looking up.
I mean, he was the pride of obviously of
11
Great
and 8
Britain.
in finals. They did play in finals.
25 out of
Djokovic led him 11 out of 8 in finals that they played.
8 out of 11.
11 to 8 in finals.
11 to 8.
The finals that they played off against.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Yeah.
Their encounters were played in majors, with Djokovic leading 8-2 in the majors.
8-2 in the majors. I mean, it is a commentary on just what a complete beast Djokovic is.
Yeah.
He's still probably, it'd be hard to say he's even on the other side of his his skills.
They went to training camp together. I didn't realize that either.
One's a coach and one's still playing. And I mean, Djokovic is going to win more Grand Slams, don't you think? I mean, more Grand Slam events.
Yeah.
Right. You got to distinguish that, Andrew, because Grand Slam is something very specific. It's a it's one of the events that go into winning a total Grand Slam.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod Sports, after a very exciting weekend, we'll talk to the owner of the Orlando Pride right after the team won its first ever National Women's Soccer League Championship.
The NWSL is a growing brand, and we're excited about the future of both MLS and NWSL.
That's Mark Wilf, and his family owns the Pride's brother MLS team, too, which won its own match a day later. And he's also the president and owner of another winner this weekend, the Minnesota Vikings, who pulled off a nail-biter win in overtime on Sunday.
Didn't have to be thrilling, Mark. Didn't have to be thrilling.
The business of team ownership, the return on investment in women's sports, and much more on and off the playing field, right after this. You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC with Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
Andrew, as your update, right? So Murray beat Joker in 2012, Djokovic in the Open, and then beat him
and then again in Wimbledon 13.
Wimbledon.
But then the Australian Open too, I think.
No, Djokovic beat him in the Australian Open.
Okay.
Andy Murray won one more Grand Slam event, I think,
right.
2016 in Wimbledon, and Sam Querrey had beat Djokovic in a huge upset at one point in 2016, and then I guess Murray beat somebody else though in the final. Milos Raonic, Raonic. So yeah, Randy, I didn't realize he won 3. So 2 Wimbledons and 1 U.S. Open.
In the 2013 Australian Open, Murray had to get through Roger Federer to get to the finals.
And then lost.
And he was exhausted. It was a 5-set win over Federer, but he had to play Federer right before he played him.
Played Djokovic.
But right before he played Djokovic.
All right,
yeah.
so we got that all squared away. So 2 of the 3 are gone, and who knows how long Djokovic. Maybe he'll be Tom Brady. Maybe he'll be playing when he's 45. I mean, he's unbelievable. Yeah. Tennis is different than, of course, those hits.
Linebacker.
Yeah, getting hit.
That's pretty.
I know. I could get hit once and be resigned.
Well, our next guest had a pretty good weekend. Mark Wilf is the owner of the Orlando Pride. That won its first ever National Women's Soccer League championship on Saturday. He's also the owner of Orlando City Soccer Club, which yesterday punched its first ever ticket to Major League Soccer's Eastern Conference Finals. And he is the owner of NFL's Minnesota Vikings. They, of course, pulled out a thrilling overtime win against the Chicago Bears yesterday. So, Mark, you're capping off that great weekend with a visit here to Squawk Box. Which of these 3 teams is your favorite?
Didn't have to be thrilling, Mark. Didn't have to be thrilling.
Well, it was so exciting, and they're all our favorites, and just winning so tough in professional sports, but so exciting, and winning a championship and a parade later today in Orlando, their first ever major league title. So really exciting.
And by the way, doing that just in the couple of years since your family purchased this club too. Why expand into other sports? We talk about it all the time about how sports are kind of the future when it comes to broadcasting, when it comes to any of these streaming things, that there is an audience and you can find them with the new ways of distribution.
Well, sports is on the upward trend, as we know. It's just a great platform. It brings communities, people together. And just the growth of it is unbelievable. And just look at women's sports in particular, over $1 billion business now. And the way it's grown and the way people rally around it, it's remarkable.
The Pride, the women's club, has really had a huge amount of momentum since your family came in and bought it. What investments did you make in the business? How are you looking at this? Well,
everything's on the upward trend, sponsorships, ticket revenue, and we're putting a lot of resources in terms of dedicated people. I mean, it's the global sport. Having players like Marta, the greatest women's sports soccer athlete ever, but just women's sports in general, I think people are rallying around it and want to watch it, and it's just a great product.
What drew you in?
I think women's empowerment. I think the fact that it's a great sport, and the way sports brings people together. I think it's a great asset for the community, and the way the fans rally around it, and the fact we have great ownership around the table now at the NWSL, and having the best athletes in the world. You see the U.S. soccer team and how it rallies every 4 years in the World Cup. So all those things point to a really great upward trajectory.
I think it used to be the thing where you saw sports teams and people would say, okay, really wealthy people look at sports teams and this is kind of their vanity play. They get to go and do something fun. They cheer for a team they care about. but it seems like it has become much more of a business over the last 5 to 10 years. Would you agree with that?
Well, it is a big business, but you have to love it, and we happen to love it. We grew up as big football fans, and that's what our engagement was, to get into the Minnesota Vikings and be part of the NFL, and just to see how all these other sports leagues are growing, like the NWSL, like MLS. I think it's saying that people want to be in great places, have great experiences, and sports and being part of a sports experience as a fan is the greatest thing of all.
So what's the most important part of this? Getting fans in the seats or getting distribution so that you can get even broader reach?
All of the above, sharing the great stories about our players and our clubs, and just growing everything. The business community is recognizing it's a great way to talk about their own companies. So we partner with great companies like in Orlando with Orlando Health and Internco Bank, and the same in Minnesota with US Bank and Twin City Orthopedics. So we have great sponsors, great partners, and our fans are loving winning. And it's hard to win in all these leagues, but it's exciting when you do.
How do you go about picking the new franchises, the new teams that you got involved with it? Did it start with the sport? Did it start with the city? I just wonder, because there are so many up-and-coming new sports that are seen as powerhouses, whether that's F1, whether that's even something like pickleball. How do you go at it and say, okay, this is where we want to be and why?
Well, it's a combination of the business metrics and the community you're in. So we've been fortunate in both Minnesota and Orlando to have great markets, and the ownership, the level of ownership with deep pockets that can invest in these sports are the kind of ownerships that the leagues want, and that's where the direction is. There's a lot of expansion going on. For instance, MLS has had great ownership. Now the NWSL looking to add a 16th team. So there's a lot of good stories out there, and it's about investing wisely and making sure that the community benefits and the business grows.
So MLS and the NWSL, those leagues, did they come to you? You found them? What happened?
It was a combination. You know, part of our Minnesota Vikings experience, we started poking around in our stadium the possibility of getting into soccer, and we spoke to the leagues, and we just learned and were around the game and saw the growth, saw the great stadium experience you get. Of course, the NFL, that was a lifelong passion of ours, but when we saw in soccer was just the great experience in the stadium and starting to get into the media landscape more and more. And so the growth trajectory was very positive, and women's sports in particular. The NWSL is a growing brand, and we're excited about the future of both MLS and NWSL.
Did you play soccer? Your kids play soccer? How did you come into this?
Well, I was a soccer parent for our 4 kids all played soccer, so it's something we were around. But everywhere I go, when I see team sports and the way a community rallies around a team, it's something special. Like I said, what's going on in Orlando. Of course, the Vikings, should we ever be successful enough to get to that ultimate goal of a Lombardi Trophy, we know what the fandom will be like there. So these are the things that drive us: winning championships, creating great fan experiences, being part of the community. Those are the kind of things that excite us as ownership, and being stewards and having the privilege of being part of these franchises.
NFC North, man. 10-1, 9-2, 8-3. The top. That's competitive. That's parity, right? But is there a changing of the guard, you think? Detroit's the best team in the league all of a sudden?
The NFL, as we know, nothing's for long really in the NFL. So there's always parity and always highly competitive franchises out there. So we're in a very competitive division, and we're just really excited about our coach, Kevin O'Connell, and Kwesi, our GM, and the way we're building. So you got to keep knocking on the door.
Who figured out that it wasn't Sam Darnold, it was the Jets that caused what happened with Sam Darnold here?
Well, that might be your viewpoint if you're a Jet fan. I don't know. I'm not going to speak about that.
He's big. He had so much potential. That's why they picked him. That's why they picked him, right?
Well,
but it took your coach to bring that out in him. Do you think? I mean, he's having.
All I know is Sam's had a great year. He's been, what we're trying to build is a great culture where all our players can hone their craft and really work on their game. And Sam's a tremendous talent. So we're fortunate he came on here, and Kevin O'Connell and our entire coaching staff have done a great job with Sam. But it's really a whole team operation. That's what's great about the NFL.
I think Woody Johnson's ready for another ambassadorship. I really do. He's like, please, I'll go anywhere.
that you can't watch?
Mark's going to say, Mark's not going to, he's just laughing at me.
We're just thinking purple and rooting for our Minnesota Vikings.
Well, it's been a while. It's exciting because, and you see Kansas City again. I mean, what do they got? They have a horseshoe up their sleeve.
It's a full-time job just focusing on the one team we got in Minnesota in the NFL, so that's what we'll worry about.
Mark, very quickly, of the three leagues, where, as a team owner, do you get the biggest return on investment?
Well, obviously, the NFL is the premier brand in the world of sports.
But literally, how much you're putting in, how much versus how much you get back.
Personal, of course, the NFL is a well-run league, as the other two leagues are. But I will tell you, I spent a lot of time on the Women's Soccer League because as a growing brand, as a relatively new brand, I think the upward trajectory there is very strong as well.
That's why I think the return on investment might be best there.
Well, percentage-wise, but the absolute dollars, of course, the NFL is the big league out there, and like I said, it's a great privilege to be stewards in a franchise in the NFL, and just to be in sports in general is just such a thrill.
Are you majority owner of Vikes? I don't.
We are. Our family is. Yes, that's correct.
I mean, got to be worth what now?
Well, I'll leave that to you.
What's the latest? What's the last valuation?
I don't follow valuations. It's enough just following the Sunday day-to-day and making sure we try to get a win every week, which is tough enough in the NFL.
Mark Wilf, thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I don't know what happened at the end of that game. I mean, 11 points in 30 seconds. It's crazy.
Next, experienced holiday gift giving. Do you shop with your partner or for your partner?
But then there's no surprise to it.
All the surprises I've had in the past have been bad surprises.
Squawk Pod will be right back. Welcome back. This is Squawk Pod.
You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin, along with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick on this Monday morning. And shoppers now expected to spend an average, you ready for this, $650 between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That's up 15% from last year. That's according to a new survey that's just come out today from Deloitte. For the entire holiday shopping season, consumers are projected to spend just under $1,200. That's up 8% from 2023. So I'm actually surprised about that, Joe. Do you think that you spend, do you think you spend half the amount of money for the holidays just during that first Thanksgiving Day week? I mean, I'm always late with all the presents, so that's why I'm thinking later in December.
I already have your present. I already have it picked out for you.
Wow.
Can I get back? Can I get back to you, Andrew? Can I get back to you on how I do it? I have no idea.
You don't do it, period.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I need to check.
Penelope's realm.
I need to check. I'm glad to have a role. I am, and I don't mind the actual role itself. Because the other thing is no. I cover, make sure things, yeah, exactly. But the other thing is too hard, the actual finding things that, don't you think you should let people decide what they really want? Andrew, do you still try? Do you still try with Pilar?
Are you a gift certificate guy? So how do you feel about a gift certificate?
No, I thought
versus
there's this new vacuum cleaner I got my eye on for Penelope. It's and a Peloton and exercise. No. I wish I could pick the jewelry out. I'm telling you, I wish I could. Okay, but I can't.
So you let the other person choose the gift?
Yes.
Or do you just do cash?
No.
I don't know how I feel about cash as a gift.
You can't do that. You gotta. It's a very difficult ritual. It's like a mating. It's like a courtship. But let's go to the mall. What is it you think? Let's go together. Let's get exactly what you want.
But then there's no surprise to it. No surprise.
No, there's no. All the surprises I've had in the past have been bad surprises. For both. Can you do it? You really can get something for that your wife would not want to take back?
I try to find out what she wants through other channels, and then I go and try to buy it and hope she doesn't return it.
Has that ever happened?
The returning, actually,
no.
I think I've done pretty well.
Where she didn't return.
I'm very fickle. I return a lot of things. I'm a terrible gift getter, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't really.
I got you something you're not going to return. It did.
Really?
Oh, I'm very excited about this.
I don't want to. I don't. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing that I don't have, which is a good way to be, isn't it?
Good. That's what I got you.
Yeah. Good. That's good. All right. That's perfect. You don't even have to wrap it. You can say it's wrapped. Here it is. Beautifully
Your
wrapped.
imaginary present.
And then I just heard a wrap. They said wrap. Actually, someone suggested what I can get for you, Andrew. I'm thinking about doing it. I hear Matt Gates is sending personal messages on Cameo.
That I would love. That I would love.
That's what Evan
Can't
suggests.
return that either.
So I'm going to send you that.
How about a gift from this next story? Bath and Body Works. I feel like I could get you some soaps that you might like.
That's a good idea.
You basically say you stink.
Yeah. I need soap.
Give that
It's
to
to
your
wash your
wife.
mouth
You need
out
soap.
with.
You need deodorant.
Wash your mouth out with the soap.
Oh, wash my mouth.
That's good.
Why? During the break, was your mic on? Or the audio? My mic was on. Shoot.
That we should just say, beyond people buying lots of soap to wash people's mouth out with, they are rising in double digits after quarterly results. Maybe a lot of people need to get their mouth washed out with soap, and they're buying a lot of it. Earnings of 49 cents a share, 2 cents better than estimates. It's on revenue of $1.60, or I shouldn't say $1.61, I should say $1.61 billion, beating expectations of $1.58 billion. For the fourth quarter, Bath & Body Works expecting earnings in the range of $1.94 a share. That's to $2.07 a share. In the street looking for earnings of $1.97. The stock up about 11% on the back of that news. Who knew that people were spending billions of dollars on soap from Bath & Body Works? Unbelievable.
Yeah, we're not spending any on soap.
Ivory. You use some fancy soap. You must. You're such a metro, whatever they are. You don't use just Ivory or something, Andrew?
Hand soap? Hand soap?
Just in the shower.
No, I like Dove.
I use Dove.
Dove. I don't know why.
The same.
Dove.
Oh man, I just realized.
That's
There's some weirdo who's been asking me on X for forever.
Oh
what soap
my God!
I
Don't.
just answered it.
The same guy with the feet?
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
use?
I don't know if it's the same guy with the feet.
Do you use soap on your feet?
Never mind.
I like lava with pumice. Do you remember that?
Take your skin off.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
You know, if you're going to do it once a month, you need a good scrubbing.
That's Squawk Pod for today, this Monday of the Thanksgiving week. Thanks for kicking it off with us. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern, or get the best of our show, the interviews you can't miss, the bad jokes, the latest headlines and analysis in your ears anytime you want, for free when you follow Squawk Pod wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow, like, share Squawk Pod. That's it. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.